Hello everyone, my name is Delaney O'Brien. I have a Bachelor of Science in Environmental Science with a minor in Sustainability Studies from the University of Florida and a Master of Arts in Global Sustainability with a concentration in Climate Change Adaptation and Mitigation from the University of South Florida. This presentation serves as an overview of the research I conducted in my final semester at University of South Florida. My research is titled A Case Study of Renewable Energy Development in Iceland. Iceland's energy policies, implementation, successes and challenges, and incorporation of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Earth is currently facing a climate crisis. The transition from non-renewable energy sources to renewable, clean energy is pertinent in reducing the acceleration of climate change. Goals created by the United Nations to track each country's sustainability progress have been adopted by most developed and developing countries of the world, and are utilized in developing policies and technologies to achieve sustainability goals. The Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, that are most relevant to this research are SDG 7, Affordable and Clean Energy, and SDG 13, Climate Action. This research idea emerged from the increasing urgency of climate change mitigation and adaptation, which is strongly influenced by countries' implementation of policies to reduce reliance on fossil fuels and transition to clean energy sources. Iceland has one of the most successful and unique renewable energy profiles, obtaining over 75% of their energy from renewable energy resources. About 75% of Iceland's renewable energy comes from hydropower, with the remaining 25% coming from geothermal sources. Diving into how Iceland has achieved such a high percentage of renewable energy can provide a strategy that can be applied in other countries to meet SDG 7 and reduce climate impact due to fossil fuel emissions. Iceland is framed as a country with one of the highest sustainability indexes worldwide. This research will provide a detailed case study into Iceland's renewable energy portfolio, energy policies, and implementation of clean energy to work towards climate change mitigation. The research will provide a framework for other countries' leaders, industries, and private entities to aid in envisioning a framework where transition to clean energy resources is sustainable, using Iceland to generate the framework. The research will provide an understanding of the natural resources present in Iceland that are utilized in the production of energy, as well as an analysis of the benefits and challenges presented by the use of these resources for energy. A transition to renewable energy sources as the primary source of energy is required to slow climate change. Policy surrounding energy and renewable energy technologies are often a hindrance to the implementation of clean energy as a primary resource. There are limited resources to aid in generating a clean energy profile utilizing systems thinking. Iceland provides an example of using resources that are nearly readily available and incorporating them into their energy grid to improve sustainability. Studying the approach taken to implement the clean energy technologies and policies in Iceland will provide clearer direction to answering the question of how to transition to a renewable energy portfolio while maintaining economic, environmental, and social health. Meeting the goals and targets set by the United Nations is a global priority which should be approached with urgency. Climate change and climate research is gaining momentum and popularity in the field of research. This research will contribute to the existing research on renewable energy implementation, the challenges and benefits, and provide a framework for overcoming obstacles to implementing renewable energy throughout the world. Phasing out fossil fuels and non-renewable energy resources is of the utmost importance and must be done soon if there is hope to mitigate and slow the climate change impacts that will continue to increase. This research will provide information that can be utilized by governing bodies, contractors, and other researchers as a resource for implementing renewable energy solutions. This research project will cover the renewable energy and other sustainability aspects of the country of Iceland. I will use Iceland as a case study to use as a basis for other countries to implement renewable energy projects and policies. The literature review is bound to renewable energy and sustainability and primarily focuses on the renewable energy and climate actions of the country of Iceland. The other portion of this research, which included traveling to Iceland to participate in the GREEN program, involved traveling to the country of interest in this research. I attended lectures with key individuals in the renewable energy and sustainability field in Iceland, hiked the country and observed renewable energy sources firsthand, and toured key renewable energy plants to see how Iceland is meeting their clean energy goals. The traveling portion of my research included 11 days of research in Iceland and was then followed up by 2 months of review and synthesis of my research observations and experiences, along with additional literature review to support emergent concerns and ideas that were identified during the travels to Iceland. The GREEN program provides sustainability-based study abroad programs to students throughout the world. One of the programs they offer is a study abroad trip to Iceland with a focus on renewable energy innovation and sustainability. I participated in this study abroad program as a portion of my research project to contribute to my knowledge on Iceland's renewable energy and climate action status. The program comprised of a 50-plus hour intensive program performed in partnership with the Iceland School of Energy at Reykjavik University. The objectives of the program included development of a deep understanding of the multiple renewable energy technologies employed in Iceland, understanding the challenges faced in Iceland in regards to energy, exploring the innovation in Iceland for renewable energy, and relating the knowledge on Iceland's renewable energy to global practices and incorporation. The program included lectures from Iceland School of Energy professionals, as well as energy industry leaders, which were utilized as a key source in my research. These lectures covered topics including an overview of Iceland's energy and natural resources, geothermal energy exploration, drilling utilization, and economic, environmental, and social aspects, hydropower in Iceland and global challenges, sustainable electricity and environmental policy, and themes in government policy. My research utilized a mixed methods approach. The participant observation methodology was used to gather qualitative data on Iceland's renewable energy implementation during a research trip to the country. While in Iceland, different aspects of their sustainability portfolio were observed, as well as participation by the researcher in fieldwork research throughout the country to allow physical observation of Iceland's natural resources. Multiple site visits to geothermal and hydropower sites in Iceland were also carried out as part of the research approach, including interviews with key informants at the renewable energy sites. Engaging energy market leaders and innovators and learning different technologies that are used in Iceland for renewable power generation enhanced the research by providing a deeper understanding of how renewable energy and other sustainability objectives are being met in practice, not just in theory. Interview methods during lectures, which occurred throughout the trip with key industry and sustainability leaders from the Reykjavik University, contributed significantly to the research findings and perspectives gathered to generate this research report. The UN Sustainable Development Goals and sub-goals were utilized in this research as a framework for an in-depth review of Iceland's sustainable energy policies and to assess how they are meeting the targets and indicators, as well as to identify any gaps that may still exist in regards to achieving UN SDGs 7 and 13. The UN SDGs act as a framework for this analysis to allow for the analysis to be in relation to other countries, and to allow for a comparison of how other countries can apply policies similar to Iceland's to achieve the same United Nations sustainability targets. An assessment of how one of the countries with the most successful renewable energy plans achieved its progress towards UN SDG 7 can provide a basis for other countries developing policies and implementing projects for clean energy. An extensive literature review of the key journals in renewable energy and sustainability was performed to research the current status of Iceland's energy policies, the makeup of their energy portfolio, the natural resource availability and locations, the cost of energy in Iceland, and other aspects important for framing Iceland as a case study for renewable energy success. Based on the in-depth literature review, an overall profile was generated on Iceland's energy, which was built upon significantly during the travels to the country. My research questions included: what is the role of renewable energy policy and development in climate change? What policies are in place to promote renewable energy development in Iceland? What were the drivers that led Iceland to transition to renewables? What is the profile of Iceland's energy production? How has Iceland utilized hydropower in its energy profile? How has Iceland incorporated geothermal power into its energy profile? Is Iceland meeting the targets of UN SDG 7? Is Iceland meeting the targets of UN SDG 13? What improvements are needed? How can Iceland function as a model for renewable energy development in other areas? In 2015, the United Nations developed the new Global Sustainable Development Goals, which is a comprehensive agenda that provides a framework for countries across the globe to work towards the same sustainability goals while using defined universal targets and indicators. For the focus of this research, the SDGs that are most applicable to utilize as a framework for Iceland's energy policies are SDG 7 and 13. UN SDG number 7, Affordable and Clean Energy, aims to ensure access to affordable, reliable, and sustainable modern energy for all people. This goal is not only important in regards to direct greenhouse gas emissions from energy production, but for the well-being of underdeveloped communities. Lack of availability of electricity increases the disparity between genders, as well as limiting the time and resources available to end poverty and hunger. With increasing demands for electricity worldwide, the increased supply of electricity will be required to be delivered in an affordable and clean way to prevent further increases in greenhouse gas emissions and negative climate change impacts caused by this sector. SDG 7 has targets which narrow down the goal and make it more achievable. SDG Target 7.1 aims for universal access to modern energy services. Target 7.2 aims to increase the share of renewable energy in the global energy mix. Target 7.3 aims to increase energy efficiency. Target 7A aims to promote international public finance for clean energy technology and investment. To promote SDG 7, countries are urged to hasten the transition to sustainable and reliable power systems. Allocating funds for the widespread adoption of clean technologies and energy infrastructure that supports renewable energy production and distribution is a key factor for success in regards to SDG 7. The primary focus of SDG 7 revolves around renewable energy development and electricity availability. Penetration of renewable energy into all end uses, including electricity, heating, and transportation, will allow for not only increased electricity availability, but will eliminate carbon emissions from these sectors. Policy support is the largest barrier that is keeping countries from being on track to achieve SDG 7 by the 2030 goal set forth by the United Nations. Policy changes required will include grid improvement projects and off-grid technologies with adequate government funding, comprehensive and inclusive policies to increase electricity access for all, policies that subsidize or support rapid development of technology and businesses for renewable energy, policy creation for auctions for renewable electricity, and overall policy support for sustainable energy development and subsidies to make renewable energy the most economically feasible option. The UN recognizes the criticality of the climate crisis and implores countries and communities to take urgent action to mitigate climate change and adapt for its impacts. United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 13 focuses on climate action, which can be broken into targets. Target 13.1 focuses on strengthening the resilience and capacity to adapt to climate-related hazards, such as increased natural disasters like hurricanes and tornadoes, or increased habitat ranges for diseases. Progress towards this target may look different dependent on geographic location, but examples include flood defenses, warning systems for natural disasters, shifting to drought-resistant crops, and implementing new building standards. Target 13.2 focuses on integration of climate change measures into national policy and planning. Target 13.3 aims to improve education on climate change aspects. Target 13A aims to distribute funds from developed countries to aid in the sustainable development of developing countries in need. And Target 13B aims to raise the ability for climate change planning and management in least developed countries. Geothermal and hydropower are both classified as renewable clean energy sources. Throughout Iceland, geothermal water is used almost exclusively for all home heating. The majority of electricity, however, is produced by hydropower. Although electricity and heating in Iceland are also completely powered by hydropower and geothermal power, Room for improvement exists in regards to fossil fuel uses in the transportation and fisheries industries. Iceland continues to utilize oil as the primary energy source in the transportation industry, including ships and aviation, and utilizes coal only as a raw material for industry at this point. The total generating capacity of Iceland from only hydropower and geothermal is 50 terawatt hours per year, and only around 35% of this estimate is currently being generated. Out of the total potential hydropower, around 42% is currently generated, and 26% of the total potential geothermal energy is generated. As energy demands increase throughout Iceland, they will continue to be able to provide adequate energy to cover all of their electricity needs with geothermal and hydro resources. Iceland has robust legal features that regulate and organize the development of renewable energy projects. The government's decisions regarding energy and sustainability policy have played a crucial role in the rapid development of renewable energy in Iceland. Iceland's long-term policy making for natural energy resources has been implemented within the Master Plan for Utilization of Renewable Energy Resources, which was originally drafted in 1997 by the Icelandic government. Over 100 potential hydropower and geothermal plants were analyzed by this plan. Throughout all of the phases of the plan, sustainability, natural resource preservation, historic site preservation, development, economics, and environmental concerns were considered and measured. Potential sites were graded as green, which is ready to utilize, yellow, which is further research is required, and red, which means the site should not be used for energy resources. In addition to the master plan, Iceland has continued to implement new plans and courses of action to meet the Paris Agreement. A climate action plan was announced in 2018, which was a fully funded long-term plan. This plan is the main mechanism for reaching the commitments made under the Paris Agreement to reduce emissions in Iceland. Another goal of the implementation of this plan is to reach Iceland's government goal of being carbon neutral by 2040. Iceland's government has a deep concern for environmental health since it is directly related to their economic success as a nation. Iceland's government consistently adopts policies to promote sustainability, including an excise duty on diesel fuel, carbon taxes, and personal vehicle taxes that are proportional to CO2 emissions. The presence of environmental accountability in project development is a key to successful renewable energy policy. One of the drivers for Iceland's shift to renewable energy and their increasingly green policies is the significant impact of climate change that is anticipated to be seen in Iceland. Since Iceland is surrounded by water and its landscape consists partially of glaciers, it is expected to face climate change impacts very soon. The shift to renewable energy started in the 1930s in Iceland, yet has rapidly increased over recent decades with increased political and economic support. Iceland's shift to renewable energy usage began with harnessing geothermal water to heat houses as a means to save money on imported coal and oil. One of the common drivers found throughout the strategic literature review is the low cost of renewable energy in comparison to other power options. During sustainability protocol assessments carried out on Iceland's geothermal and hydropower plants, results most often showed that there was a heavy importance of supply of low-cost power to the electricity grid, along with a cheap supply of hot water from geothermal sites to supply district heating to improve the quality of life in the greater Reykjavik area. Geothermal energy is a sustainable and renewable source of energy that has the potential to provide baseload power demands in specific regions. Currently, 3.8% of energy worldwide is generated by geothermal sources. Traditional geothermal energy is most often limited to regions located on tectonic plate margins. In order for a geothermal area to be feasible for energy production, there are three main requirements: an abundance of water to carry the heat that is below the Earth's surface, the presence of a heat source to heat the water, and permeability of the ground to allow water to access the hot rock media under the surface and then make its way back up to the surface. Originally, geothermal energy was only considered a resource for hot water for bathing, heating, and cooking. However, over the last century, geothermal energy has been increasingly utilized for a variety of applications, including electricity, heating buildings, industrial usage, soil warming, and more. The largest use of geothermal is for space heating, which utilizes the stable high-temperature geothermal water in buildings for primary heating functions. Geothermal energy has one of the lowest costs when compared to other renewable electricity sources, which makes it a great competitor where it is available for harnessing. Geothermal energy development does have potential challenges, including drilling noise, hydrogen sulfide waste gas, carbon dioxide waste gas, increases in seismic activity, waste liquid disposal challenges, and changes in land and thermal features. In Iceland, the utilization of geothermal energy is one of the safest and cheapest options due to its nearly unlimited abundance and proximity to populations. The geothermal potential of Iceland is high, with the majority of the megawatts being generated in 6 large geothermal power plants as seen in the table below. Iceland's location on the Atlantic Ridge and possibly on a mantle plume ensures tectonic and volcanic activity. This geographical location of Iceland's landmass provides it with an abundance of geothermal energy, which provides over 90% of all space heating in the country, which significantly improves the quality of life in such a cold climate. Choosing to utilize geothermal energy in Iceland is an economically and environmentally feasible choice. It provides the most readily available and constant source of electricity and power on the island. During my research trip to Iceland, I visited multiple geothermal power plants, including Helsheiði Power Plant, which is a large-scale geothermal plant that supplies the majority of the geothermal energy to the capital of Reykjavik, and Varmorka Geothermal Power Plant, which is a small-scale geothermal operation which uses phase turbines to utilize the hot water at all temperatures as it loses heat. Based on tours and lectures given by operators of the power plants, the common issues that have arisen from geothermal energy production at their locations are minimal, except surrounding research being performed regarding the Deep Drilling Project, which is working towards drilling deeper to access hotter geothermal waters to generate higher amounts of power. One of the sustainability challenges associated with deep drilling for geothermal, which was discovered during research in Iceland, is the increased occurrence of low-scale earthquakes in the surrounding areas where the deep drilling occurs, which creates social, sustainability concerns, and public safety concerns. Hydropower is a clean energy source with negligible greenhouse gas emissions, and when compared to other emerging renewable energy technologies, has mature harnessing technologies that are already existing. Hydropower at a basic level is the conversion of energy from water into electricity, which can be harnessed from using turbines and water moving from higher to lower elevations. Hydropower production does generate CO2 emissions due to decomposition of vegetation in reservoirs, but these emissions are extremely small in scale when compared to emissions of other energy generation technologies. Significant benefits exist when comparing hydropower to other power sources. Hydropower is renewable and cost-efficient, can provide flood and drought protection, can provide employment for locals, and can provide a reserve of fresh water for communities. Worldwide, hydropower is a key player in the renewable energy sector, accounting for 71% of all renewable energy currently harnessed and accounting for 15% of the world's total electricity. One of the major challenges associated with hydropower is the requirement of large areas for reservoirs to store water. These reservoirs can lead to large local populations being displaced. An easy solution to this concern is placing hydropower plants in more remote areas of the water source to avoid disrupting local populations. Additionally, the large reservoirs alter the natural flow of water and disrupt stream connectivity, which can devastate aquatic ecosystems relying on the flow of the water systems. Large hydropower projects also require the construction of massive infrastructure, which requires significant upfront costs and time investments. These large projects raise significant concerns among locals regarding the protection of the aesthetic aspects of their land, which can be a large source of revenue through tourism and recreational sectors. Water quality and aquatic biodiversity are also altered by the construction and operation of hydropower plants. Migration pathways for some fish species are disrupted by dams and can devastate entire populations. Human hazards are also increased by the presence of hydropower plants, including an increase in the risk for extreme flooding events in the case of a failure of a dam. There are approximately 50 hydropower plants currently in operation in Iceland. The majority of the hydropower production is dominated by glacier melt, the key resource that makes Iceland feasible for hydropower production. Iceland has advantageous hydrologic features, allowing over 50% of their hydropower reservoirs to be naturally supplied by glaciers, which cover 10% of Iceland's landmass. Due to Iceland's abundant water resources, as well as ample undeveloped land and mountains, strategic placement of hydropower plants is the most optimal of conditions allows Iceland to generate abundant hydropower, just under 2,000 megawatts, with minimal negative externalities. For hydropower to be feasible, annual precipitation and elevation gradients must be favorable, as well as the properties of river flow being used, snowpack and snowmelt trends, and hydrology of the region. Without all factors aligning, hydropower cannot be economically or environmentally feasible. Hydropower should be assessed on a case-by-case basis based on the attributes of potential location. During my research trip to Iceland, I visited the Ljósafoss hydropower plant, where I observed a few of the sustainable practices that Iceland has surrounding their energy production. Ljósafoss is a 15-megawatt glacial river power station. Glacial rivers near this plant have significantly heavy flow during the summer months when snowmelt is the highest. Due to irregular flow, the power plant built a dam and large reservoir to control the water supply throughout the year. However, due to Iceland's intrusive assessments into power plant operations, hydropower plants such as this one are only permitted to be erected in land areas that are suitable for hydropower and have minimal impacts to the surrounding areas. Teaching sustainability and the value of the environment is an important and impactful tool for increasing support and awareness of environmental issues and helps create an informed population who can enact sustainable change. Iceland's school system curriculum heavily emphasizes sustainability education in multiple levels of education, making sustainability one of the 6 foundations of education on the National Curriculum Guide. Integrating sustainability education into the core curriculum ensures that the majority of the population will receive some amount of education and knowledge on sustainability practices and the importance of climate change mitigation by the time they enter the workforce. Having professionals in all sectors and job types have a background in sustainability can facilitate increased collaboration and implementation of sustainability solutions that require a systems approach, since professionals with all different backgrounds and expertise can work together with their common education in sustainability. Having a general population that is educated in sustainability and tends to support sustainable change and has a sense of respect for the environment makes passing new sustainable laws and policies, starting new initiatives and technological advancements, and funding sustainable solutions easier, since it will likely be more widely supported. In addition to having sustainability in the core curriculum, Iceland also has a voluntary initiative called Eco Schools, which is an education program for all levels of education that educates on current environmental issues. Half of the country's elementary and secondary schools have already participated. Iceland's higher education and universities also support global education and sustainability, hosting many sustainability programs, including UN training programs such as the Geothermal Training Program and the Land Restoration Training Program. Education shapes our values and opinions from an early age. Including sustainability in the basic education of students ensures that they will have the knowledge required to contribute to solving the environmental issues that our planet is facing and will continue to face with the onset of anthropogenic climate change impacts. The achievement of the UN SDGs is an ongoing process globally, and Iceland is no exception. However, regarding UN SDG 7, affordable and clean energy, Iceland has met all targets. Iceland's proportion of renewable energy in the energy mix is 99.9% for electricity specifically, and 73% in total for all energy, with geothermal utilization for 99% of heating in the entire country. Regarding affordable and reliable electricity, all of Iceland's people have access to electricity in their homes at an affordable price. Iceland also has seen increasing energy efficiency due to technological advancements. Iceland's robust policy support of clean energy adoption and expansion has had an extremely impactful role and is one of the highest contributors to their success in meeting UN SDG 7. There is still room for improvement and advancement, specifically in regards to the target to increase the role of renewable energy in the global energy mix through the export of excess clean energy. Significant opportunity exists for Iceland to increase generation past their current needs and export this energy to Europe. Due to Iceland's low population, the country has the potential to generate a much greater amount of electricity than it can consume. There is potential in the future to increase other countries' percentage of renewable energy by utilizing the direct export of Iceland's geothermal and hydropower electricity to the European energy grid via large-scale submarine cables. Iceland is taking great strides to meet UN SDG 13. An example of actions taken by Iceland to achieve zero carbon emissions include the funding of the CarbFix project, which captures the CO2 emissions from geothermal power plants and injects them back into the earth safely to enable the power plants to generate power essentially carbon-free. Iceland has also made climate change and sustainability education part of the core curriculum in all grade levels. However, despite Iceland's attempts to reduce CO2 emissions and create impactful climate action, the country has significant gaps that must be addressed in order to be on track to meet UN SDG 13. Despite being considered one of the most sustainable countries in the world, Iceland releases one of the highest greenhouse gas emissions per capita rates globally. Due to Iceland's abundant supply of clean and cheap energy, aluminum smelting, a very energy-intensive industry, has become increasingly popular in Iceland. Despite the use of clean energy for power, which emits near zero GHG emissions, the aluminum smelting in Iceland continues to increase the country's overall emissions. Other sectors that are negatively impacting Iceland's progress towards UN SDG 13 are the transport and fishing sectors, which are the main consumers of fossil fuels in Iceland. Due to population growth and recent economic success in Iceland, the country has one of the highest per capita vehicle ownerships, which continues to increase. A shift towards electric vehicles is required, but is still in its early stages due to price and accessibility barriers. Oil is still the primary source of fuel for ship and aviation transportation in Iceland, with coal still being a common raw material utilized in the fishing industry. There is potential for the advancement of sustainable transportation in Iceland by means of renewable energies usage directly in the transportation sector. However, there are significant barriers that currently exist to implementing this, one of which is the inability for the existing power grid in Reykjavik to support the energy that would be required on the grid to deliver electric car charging to a high percentage of the homes. From a political standpoint, there has been a significant push towards the fuel transition to domestic renewables in Iceland due to a government pledge to be carbon neutral by 2040. Iceland has implemented carbon taxes and green incentives to attempt to push the transportation and fisheries sectors in the direction of sustainability, which will aid in the integration of renewable fuels in these sectors. With increased research and investment into battery storage technology for geothermal and hydropower storage, the demand for the increased energy required to support the transportation sector can be met. Additional work is still required to ensure the safe delivery of ample electricity to support this transition, but with the appropriate fiscal allocations, Iceland's strong sustainability policymaking will most likely see success in this transition. Although Iceland excels in their energy sustainability profile, there is room for improvement in sectors that affect other UN SDGs. One sustainability concern that Iceland struggles with is very minimal forest and vegetation cover caused by initial settlers burning almost all of the wood on the island for fuel and clearing a significant portion of the land to have grass for sheep breeding. Although this was hundreds of years ago, climate change, increasing population, and loose volcanic soils have made it nearly impossible for the original vegetation and forests of Iceland to replenish, causing severe soil erosion issues and plenty of man-made desert as far as the eye can see. Despite this setback in land use sustainability, efforts are being prioritized by Iceland's academic leaders to restore soil health and increase the percentage of land with vegetation cover by importing the Alaskan lupin, which is a nitrogen-binding, soil-forming plant that will yield to other native vegetation in a few decades after it has served its purpose to increase their soil health. Another sustainability concern in Iceland is the risk to hydropower production due to climate change. Natural fluctuations in glacial melt are common, yet with the addition of anthropogenic climate change, long-term models show increasingly fast glacial melt, which puts Iceland's largest energy resource in jeopardy. This would put over half of the country's electricity supply at risk, which would be of significant economic, social, and environmental significance. Iceland's heavy support of environmental initiatives may be seated in their necessity for the health and stability of their natural resources for survival and for a flourishing economy. Although other countries may not be located geographically in a location that promotes the use of geothermal and hydropower resources, that doesn't mean they cannot learn from Iceland. Iceland's focus on sustainability in education and policy is the primary driver behind their success so far in progressing towards meeting the UN SDGs. Implementing the processes and assessments laid out in Iceland's master plan and other countries' energy development structures would have monumental impact on the energy choices and profiles of countries around the world. A common theme in countries with primarily clean energy production is the presence of environmental accountability in project development, which should be one of the key takeaways from Iceland's policy by other countries in order to shift towards more sustainable policy and practice. To be successful in transitioning to renewable energy, a key factor to consider is cost. The cost of renewable energy must be made to be cheaper than the alternatives, which will drive it to success in the markets. To begin this process, government intervention is often required to provide policies and incentives that promote the use of renewables by driving down their initial costs. To drive down costs further, countries must evaluate which natural resources are most readily and feasibly available to them for the production of energy. Using the most abundant and feasible sources based on location and need is crucial in ensuring a competitive price while reducing negative environmental externalities. Technological advancements such as CarbFix and enhanced geothermal systems, EGS, are solutions that can be implemented in a great number of countries worldwide and provide learning opportunities for sustainability for all countries. CarbFix is being utilized across the country of Iceland with goals to expand worldwide. CarbFix was first tested on an industrial scale at Helsheiði geothermal power plant in Iceland, where over 70,000 tons of CO2 emissions from operation have already been re-injected into the earth for permanent storage. This technology dissolves CO2 emissions into water, carbonating the water, which then becomes acidic. This acidified water is then injected into basalt rock beneath the surface, where it sinks deeper into the ground due to its density and reacts with porous rock as it moves through it. The deep rock where the CO2 eventually mineralizes acts as a permanent carbon sink. Implementation of CarbFix technology and similar technologies for carbon recapture should be implemented in areas where favorable geologic conditions and carbon-emitting sources overlap to maximize carbon recapture. Based on research performed by the CarbFix team, Europe has the potential to store 4,000 billion tons of CO2 using CarbFix technology, and the United States has the potential to store 7,500 billion tons of CO2 using the same CarbFix methods. This research group is now working to expand this technology to enable direct carbon dioxide capture from the atmosphere, which could prove to be a game-changing technology in climate change adaptation. Enhanced geothermal systems can allow regions that may have never considered themselves a feasible location for geothermal power generation to be able to incorporate it into their renewable energy portfolio. EGS is a solution for utilizing the tremendous resource of Earth's internal heat for electricity at an extremely efficient rate. It is believed that humans could meet all energy needs for approximately 3,000 years with just the use of 1% of the heat resources contained in Earth's crust. Although water is usually the typical media used for transporting heat in geothermal energy systems, the possibility exists when using EGS to utilize CO2 at high pressures as the working fluid, which has multiple advantages over the use of water, including increased geological sequestration of CO2 emissions, which contributes to meeting UN SDG 13 to mitigate climate change. Although Iceland faces some challenges to overall sustainability, their consistent government support of sustainability laws and initiatives, strong emphasis on sustainability and environmental health in education and professional settings, and promotion of sustainable practices throughout all sectors continues to move Iceland in the direction of sustainability in all aspects. The importance of policy support is highlighted by the success of Iceland's sustainable energy sector due to supporting environmental regulations and policies that promote economic sustainability and environmental initiatives. The importance of culture in implementing change was also a key takeaway from this research. A people who collectively share values such as environmentalism and support of investment for a better future can affect great and significant change. Building a culture with a core value of environmental responsibility and sustainability is driven in part by the emphasis on sustainability education, which demonstrates the support and importance that leaders are placing on the subject. Based on observations made throughout Iceland, the overall perspective and opinion of the purpose of the environment leans significantly more towards reverence and gratitude than in Western countries such as the United States, where the environment is generally regarded as a service or as something to utilize. This topic of study is of the utmost importance considering the climate change crisis the world is facing. Learning from successes and failures worldwide will expedite the path to a successful transition to sustainability, including the successful shift to renewable energy globally. Every country has varying government structures, economic situations, and cultural mindsets regarding environmental law, policy, regulations, and sustainability. But the economic and environmental successes of Iceland, based primarily on their shift to renewable energy, cannot be denied, and warrants a second look for even the most skeptical.